Welcome to my channel, where your adventure into the future starts right now. Step into a vibrant universe filled with groundbreaking technology, breathtaking alien landscapes, and exhilarating sci-fi narratives that challenge your imagination. From daring explorations of distant galaxies to haunting journeys through dystopian societies, we uncover the most captivating stories and innovative ideas that will shape the world of tomorrow. Subscribe today and join us on an incredible intergalactic voyage that promises to inspire and thrill. Lucas stood at the heart of the wreckage, the alien warship now beginning to show signs of life, its complex systems flickering back into operation, and yet, the scene around him remained unnervingly quiet. The alien engineers, their multi-limbed forms twisting in nervous glances, continued to hover, seemingly paralyzed by what was unfolding before them. The once imposing ship, something they had once considered an untouchable, invincible symbol of their civilization's grandeur, was now a strange, alien object in the hands of someone who was still, by their standards, an inexperienced cadet. They had all witnessed it, all saw the young human working with an almost eerie calmness as he effortlessly navigated the ship's inner workings, bypassing and repairing components that should have been beyond him. He wasn't the first human to visit alien technology, nor the first to attempt a repair, but Lucas was different. The very instinct that had allowed him to survive the unpredictable environments of his homeworld, Earth, a world where survival was an unpredictable, constant fight against nature, had found its place here. Where the alien saw complexity, Lucas saw simplicity. Where they saw a machine built by centuries of meticulous craftsmanship, he saw a tool with parts that could be manipulated and altered to function again. The warship, which had once been the pride of the alien fleet, was a masterwork of design, forged over countless years of their civilization's most advanced minds. Its primary propulsion was powered by a rare form of crystalline energy, harvested from distant stars, something the aliens had perfected long ago. The ship had been designed to withstand the brutalities of deep space combat and the uncharted territories they often ventured into. It had shields that could withstand the power of entire star systems, weapons capable of annihilating entire fleets, and enough internal redundancy systems to ensure that it could function even in the direst situations. This was not just a warship, it was the culmination of generations of scientific achievement. Yet, when it had crashed onto this barren moon, all that advanced technology had been rendered useless in an instant. The ship had gone down in a catastrophic failure, a malfunction in the ship's primary drive system coupled with a miscalculation in its approach to the moon's orbit. The results were devastating: a crash that tore the ship's hull open, ripped through its primary energy systems, and left it in an inert, useless heap on the moon's surface. The alien engineers had begun their work slowly and cautiously. They needed to assess the damage first, consult their diagnostic systems, and then devise a plan to begin repairs. Their initial assumptions were predictable. This was a warship unlike any they had ever encountered. It would take days, weeks, perhaps to stabilize the most critical systems, let alone repair the damage to the core. The human cadets, they had thought, could help with some basic assessments. But nothing could prepare them for Lucas's ability. Lucas wasn't just mechanically inclined. He wasn't a genius of alien technology. He had no formal training on advanced systems like these, not in the way that the aliens themselves did. But Earth had forged a different kind of understanding in its inhabitants. Lucas's training, though basic by the standards of the alien engineers, had prepared him for a life where resourcefulness and ingenuity were the only tools that mattered. On Earth, when things broke, they were fixed, or people perished. It wasn't just a lesson learned in classrooms, it was woven into the very fabric of human existence. Lucas had started with the simplest part of the ship's breakdown, the power conduits. Power was everything, and without it, the warship was nothing more than an expensive hunk of metal. The energy reactor, a crystalline structure whose design was foreign to him, had been damaged beyond immediate repair. But Lucas had noticed something odd. The reactor wasn't entirely broken, it had simply become disconnected from the ship's main power grid. The conduit pathways were severed, the control systems locked in a failsafe mode. Most of the alien engineers had assumed the damage was terminal. They had seen ships like this crumble under similar conditions before. But Lucas didn't see failure. He saw opportunity. Lucas worked methodically, using the alien tools at his disposal, alongside his own makeshift instruments tools he had improvised from his survival kit. He knew the importance of each connection. By following the ship's internal schematics as best as he could, he manually rerouted the system's fail-safes, bypassing the damaged reactor's core and creating a temporary link to the auxiliary power grid. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was enough to bring the ship's main control systems online. As the first crackling hum of the warship's internal power systems began to fill the air, the alien engineers had their first real shock. The ship's lights blinked on, faint at first, then brightened, illuminating the wreckage around them. Power surged back through the core systems, just enough to kickstart the basic operations of the warship. The reactor remained unstable, but it was no longer a dead husk of energy. It was now a volatile but usable power source. The ship could be used again, at least for the most basic functions. The lead engineer, a towering figure of blue-skinned, segmented limbs, and a complex array of sensory organs, took a step forward, his numerous eyes narrowing in confusion. He had witnessed Lucas's efforts with growing amazement, his understanding of alien technology rapidly shifting. But when he stepped toward the now-activated terminal and saw the auxiliary power grid blinking to life, his confusion only deepened. How could this human, with no knowledge of their systems, bypass their complex technology so easily? Lucas wiped the sweat from his brow and looked over at the aliens, their expressions a mix of disbelief and awe. "I fixed the power," he said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Now, we can work on the rest." The alien engineers exchanged looks, their minds reeling with the implications. No other species, no one else had ever been able to do this. The technology they had developed took lifetimes of study to understand, and yet here was this young human, barely an adult by their standards, repairing it in less time than it took most of them to recalibrate a standard plasma converter. But Lucas wasn't done. He continued to move through the ship's damaged sections with an ease that no one had expected. There was the hull integrity, which needed to be reinforced to prevent further structural collapse. He began the difficult task of realigning the main reactor conduits, using raw metal scraps and plating from the wreckage. While the alien engineers could have produced the perfect materials in a controlled environment, Lucas simply worked with what he had, cutting, welding, and attaching plates with a remarkable efficiency. Every movement seemed deliberate, every decision based on instinct. He was in his element. The aliens, who had once thought that humans could only observe, now found themselves taking notes. The ship's systems, originally a foreign concept to Lucas, were gradually beginning to reveal their secrets to him. With every passing minute, he demonstrated not only his ability to repair what had been thought irreparable, but also his uncanny knack for understanding the very principles that had eluded even the most advanced minds in the galaxy. It wasn't about raw intellect, it was about adaptability, creativity, and the understanding that things could always be fixed. With the right tools, the right mindset, and the right persistence, anything could be repaired. Hours passed, and Lucas continued to fix the ship, moving from one section to the next. The alien engineers, initially hesitant, now stood in a semicircle, awestruck. They were no longer offering suggestions or making comments, they were silent, watching as Lucas solved problem after problem with an ease that belied the complexity of the tasks at hand. The warship, which had seemed like a lifeless, broken shell, was coming back to life under his hands. Finally, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the once damaged warship was no longer the crippled wreck it had been. The hull had been reinforced, the power grid had been stabilized, and the internal systems were fully functional, at least in a temporary capacity. Lucas stood at the center of it all, his clothes covered in grease and ash, his hands still trembling slightly from the exertion, but a satisfied grin on his face. The lead engineer approached cautiously, as if still unsure of what had just transpired. This is impossible," he murmured in his native tongue, which Lucas, through a translator, had now understood. How did you do it?" Lucas didn't hesitate. He knew exactly how to explain it. "It's simple. You build things to last. But the key is knowing how to fix them when they break. And on Earth, things break all the time." The engineer stood frozen for a long moment, as if the weight of Lucas's words had just hit him. This human, this young cadet, had not only saved a warship that was supposed to be beyond repair, but he had done so by embodying everything that the alien species had forgotten to value in their pursuit of perfect technology: the ability to adapt, to think on one's feet, and to never give up. And for the first time, the alien engineers realized that perhaps there was something more to humanity than they had ever expected. The Deathworlders were not just a product of a harsh planet, they were something much more. They were survivalists in the truest sense, capable of not just overcoming adversity, but mastering it in ways that no other species could understand. It was this raw, unpolished power that set them apart, and it was something the galaxy would have to reckon with, whether it was ready or not. As the warship hummed back to life, Lucas looked around at the alien engineers, his grin widening. "Now," he said, "who's ready to take this baby for a test flight?" And the aliens, stunned into silence, had no answer because they knew there was no point in denying the truth. This young human had done what none of them thought possible. And they knew they would never underestimate a Deathworlder again.